Hello beautiful people and welcome to my channel, Tarot by Bronx. This is Tarot Talk. These are Tarot Tings and I'm your host, Boogie Down Bronx. And I'm here to answer some frequently asked questions. Now, I'm not an astrologer by any means. You know, I'm into the tarot. But I have been studying certain elements in regards to astrology. So I just wanted to share some of the knowledge that I've learned. This video will be about, I'll be talking about fixed signs, mutable signs, cardinal signs, what they are. And then I'll be talking about if opposites attract. You know, if you are, dating someone who is the opposite sign of you, you might not even know what an opposite sign is, but I'm going to talk about it, break it down a little bit, and share some of the things that I have learned. I'm opening up a tarot course also in about a week and a half or so on my new website when my readings come out again. And so if you're interested in learning more, but it's going to be specifically about tarot, then you can sign up for that. I'm only taking 10 people at a time, so it's going to fill up pretty quickly. Okay, so here we go. So let's start. So there are, like I said, there's fixed signs, there's mutable signs, and there's cardinal signs. I wrote it down here because it's a lot of information. So first we're going to start with cardinal. So cardinal signs include Capricorn and Cancer. Those are the opposite signs. And then Aries and Libra. So cardinal signs kick off the season, like spring, summer, Cancer, winter, Capricorn, Aries. You know what I mean, right? Okay, so yeah, those are the cardinal signs. The next is, what's the middle? Fixed signs. So fixed signs are in the middle of the season, which are Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. So those are the opposite signs that go together, and I'll explain those in a minute as well. And then we have mutable signs. Mutable signs and the seasons. Okay, so mutable signs include Sagittarius and Gemini together, and Virgo Pisces. And you'll notice, like, all of these fixed, mutable, cardinal, it's all water, air, fire, water. Did I say water already? Water, air, I mean earth. Earth, fire, water, air. Yeah, y'all know what I mean. But yeah, so cardinal signs. What are cardinal signs? Like I said, they start the season off, but cardinal signs are like usually trendsetters, go-getters. Like they start things, like they're starters. Like they go after what they want, like for example, Cancer. Like Cancer leads with their heart, so they might do things like they follow their heart, like they're the first ones to start something in regards to whatever it is that they're passionate about, what they love. So that's a really good thing to be a cardinal sign, because you're a starter, you're a trendsetter, you usually do things first, but on the downside of being a cardinal sign, some people might consider you to be inconsiderate, like you have a me first mentality, or you kind of like, for example, like the Cancer tarot card is the Chariot, right? And the Chariot card is not always a good card, because the Chariot, while yes, it's moving forward, it's one of those cards that it runs over whoever's in the way, and that's how people can see it's inconsiderate. Sometimes Cancers can be, because they will stop at nothing to get what they want, which is usually how cardinal signs are. Very ambitious, but at the same time, they might not take into consideration how other people feel, meaning domineering. So yeah, those are cardinal signs. And after I go through mutable and fixed, we'll go through each pair of the sister signs. So the middle season, fixed energies, Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius. So fixed energy is a good thing, because it can be, if you fall under like a lot of fixed energy in your chart, you're loyal, you're hardworking, you're steady. And fixed meaning you sustain. You can stay in a period of something for a long period of time, like you're hardworking. But at the same time, fixed energy. I have a lot of fixed energy in my chart, being Scorpio moon and Scorpio rising. It's hard to let go, you know, like you hold on to what's comfortable. It's hard to change certain things. It's hard to let go of, you know, if it's like, for example, with me being a fixed sign in my moon, it might be hard for me to let go of certain emotional baggage or things in regards to my emotions. So stuff like that. But yeah, they get things done. However, they can be resistant to changing, which is not a good thing because, you know, everything changes. So yeah, those are the fixed signs. And then lastly, the mutable signs, the end of the season. Mutable signs again are Virgo Pisces, Sagittarius, Gemini. Now, mutable signs are known as like the chameleons of the zodiac, and I'm a Virgo sun, so, you know, I'm also mutable. And I have more mutable energy in my chart. I'm a Virgo stellium, so, you know, lots of mutable energy. So mutable signs are known for, you know, adapting to different environments. They are like shapeshifters. They can go with the flow. They often change, you know, a lot in their lifetime. They're good at adjusting to, you know, chaos. They can work well under pressure. Usually they do work really well under pressure. But the downside to being a mutable sign is that, sorry, we're New York, it's loud. The downside to being a mutable sign is that it's hard to find your true core essence, because you're so, like, you adjust so easily to other people. It's easy for you to pick up other people's traits, other people's habits. You know, if you have a friend or you have a friend group, it's common that you might act like them a lot, or you might pick up on other people's lingo a lot, because you just adjust so easily to other people's energy. And so you don't even know sometimes who you really are when you have a lot of mutable energy, because, you know, you change a lot, or you're so used to picking up others' energy. So that's the downside to that. And for mutable signs, I think it's important to, you know, step aside from other people and really try to remember who you are at the core. I know I struggle with that sometimes. Okay, so the grand finale. Do opposites attract? Do they really attract? Do they? Yes, a lot of the times they do. I say they do, as long as both parties are willing to, you know, be flexible for how the other person is, you know, willing to compromise. That's the word I'm looking for, compromise. So starting with Aries. Aries' sister sign is Libra. That means they are opposite. They are polar on the wheel, the zodiac wheel. So they are opposite because Aries is a sign of independence. Aries is usually a very independent sign. You will see Aries oftentimes doing things on their own. They like to travel a lot. You might see Aries, if you see somebody taking a whole bunch of pictures, you know, in different countries, and they're usually the only one in the picture, most times they're in Aries, because that's just how they are. They just like to do things on their own. They don't like anybody, you know, holding them back. Libra is a sign about partnership, balance, fairness, compromise. And when these two signs get together, it might be hard for both of them to adjust, because that's why Libra can be known as a very codependent sign, because Libra is the scales, and so it needs balance. And sometimes Libra will try to find balance in another person, but that's not possible. You have to be balanced within yourself. My Venus is in Libra, the struggle. So it's like when Libra becomes codependent, it's like if there's nobody on this end of the scale, then it just drops, and it's just like wobbly, you know. So Aries can learn from Libra how to work as a team and not do everything by themselves, how to work, you know, in a partnership, how to collaborate. And Libra can learn from Aries how to become more independent and not always have to rely on someone else for, you know, balancing themselves. Okay, so that's Aries and Libra together. how they can work together or how they might fall apart if they can't learn how to mesh those opposite qualities. Next is Taurus and Scorpio. So Taurus and Scorpio both have in common that they both can be, possessive. They're both fixed signs, so they like to find stability and comfort in something. However, Scorpio, even though Scorpio is a fixed sign, Scorpio still prefers transformation of some kind. Like, they like to dive deep. Like, they like to go within. They don't mind going to the dark side. Usually Scorpios favor the dark side of things, the psychological aspects. They can get really deep and transforming. And Taurus, I feel like sometimes doesn't like to dive that deep. Okay, they might prefer to remain comfortable. They might even be a little bit afraid to dive that deep. Okay, so if you have like Taurus and Scorpio in your chart, I can imagine that it can be hard to find a balance between, transforming and then being comfortable. But I feel like these two signs can help each other find stability and a mutual understanding. And Scorpio can possibly help Taurus to, dive in deeper. And then Taurus can help Scorpio how to find more balance and stability and realize that things are not always that deep, So I would say the downside, though, could be when if these two signs can't find a mutual understanding of jealousy or possessiveness. Yeah, because I know both of these signs can be that way. So next we have Gemini and Sagittarius. So the thing is, like, Gemini can be kind of scatterbrained. Gemini can be anxious, at times fretful. And Sagittarius is pretty optimistic, free-spirited. They're looking at the future. Gemini might be non-linear. They're not really thinking about the future, past, present in any specific order. It's kind of just like jumbled up there, all over the place. And Gemini can be more blunt, and then Sagittarius can be more lighthearted. So you see where those, come into play. So it's like Gemini could teach Sagittarius how to, to not always look so forward into the future, always grasping for something in the future, or how to, in a way, be more serious. Yeah, more serious. I think that's the word I'm looking for. And then Sagittarius can teach Gemini how to kind of focus more on the future, how to be more lighthearted, things like that. Capricorn and Cancer. Capricorn and Cancer, to me, that's like one of the, I would say Capricorn and Cancer and Virgo and Pisces, those are like the biggest opposites I see. But Capricorn and Cancer, so I think of them as like the mom and dad of the zodiac sign, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. I can't remember what Cancer is ruled by, but more maternal. Cancer is very maternal, and Capricorn is the fatherly figure. So Cancer is driven by emotion, by the moon. Oh yeah, the moon, duh. The moon. The moon, by emotions and the moon. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is discipline and practicality and logic and morals. So these two signs can find it hard to work together because Cancer, is, like I said, driven by the heart. And so Cancer can teach Capricorn how to open up their heart, how to be more in touch with their emotions. And then Capricorn can teach Cancer how to, lead with their head sometimes, and, approach situations from a more logical standpoint, because you honestly need both, right? You can't just lead with your head all the time. You can't just lead with your heart all the time. You need both. So, interesting. That's an interesting pairing there. Next, we have Leo and Aquarius. So, Leo and Aquarius is also a pretty big different. Like, it's either like they hate each other or they really love each other, you know, one of those. So they're both very opinionated signs. They can both be have big personalities. Usually they do, in some way, either in their views, or, you know, they're loud or they're expressive, things like that. However, where they clash is like Leo is more focused on self, and Aquarius might be more focused on social issues or things that they really care about, more like an advocate. And Leo might be missing from Aquarius that praise that they're looking for, like that you know, that uplifting, because like this common thing with Aquarius is that they're always called aloof, or, you know, detached emotionally, and that's something that they kind of need, in a sense, or they feel like they do, is, you know, to be praised on their work, to be praised on what they're doing. And what else did I write here? Yeah, and so with Aquarius, Leo might be too focused on themselves at times, and Aquarius feels like they're not being praised in another sense for what they're doing, where their views are being pointed at, you know, things like that. So I feel like they both like recognition, but it's different. It's like Leo likes the recognition of themselves, you know, to be praised on things that, you know, represent them. And then Aquarius likes to be praised on things that represent what they're doing outside of them, if that makes sense, you know. So that can be hard to come to a mutual understanding for Aquarius and Leo. And then lastly, last but not least, Virgo and Pisces. Sometimes I find it hard to understand Pisces. I do. I really do. Because Virgos are analytical. They're practical as well. Logic, planning, you know, planning ahead is Virgo's way. You know, planning everything out. And then Pisces, Virgo plans, Pisces floats. So Pisces goes with the flow, the water, you know, all of that. And so, I mean, it can be a good thing if they can find that balance, but with the where it clashes is like Pisces for Virgo could be too dreamy, like they don't plan enough. They kind of like going with the flow for a Virgo, that's foreign. Like, that's hard. So, you know, but it's like on one end they can help each other, because Virgo can help Pisces, you know, come down to earth, to be a better planner, to plan things out more. And then Pisces can help Virgo to kind of get out of their heads, because that's hard for Virgos as well to do, you know, and how to go with the flow more often. So as long as they can come to that mutual understanding and agreement, then it could work. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this little video, and, you know, you got something from it. I just took a quick break from the monthlies because, you know, sometimes I just want to do something else. So the next monthly will be posted very, very soon. I'm not going to say which one I'm doing, because I am at By Bronx on everything.